Don't clean spark plugs this way, it's a waste of time and effort. Cut to the end of the video if you want to see how you can clean them quickly and easily. Hello and welcome to another episode of Punto How To. Finally, after quite a few weeks, I am in the garage and we have the car in here and we are ready to begin some work on it. If you've been following any of my recent videos, you will know that there is quite a lot to do on this car, and you can probably see just the paint alone is in a pretty poor shape. But if there are any videos you would like to see in the coming weeks or months, do let me know by dropping a comment below. In this video, I'm going to be tackling something that I haven't previously done, and that is to be taking a closer look at these. Because all of my previous videos have been largely based on diesel-powered puntos, I haven't had much of a need to look at spark plugs. However, with the vast majority of Fiatpunto cars being built around a similar engine to the one that's in this car, the 1.2 litre petrol engine, it is important and really essential for anyone who's running these cars to have a bit more understanding about the spark plugs and the ignition system. The three things that any petrol engine needs is air, fuel and a spark. That combined creates a bang, and that bang happens many thousands of times a minute to propel the vehicle along. The cycle of suck, squeeze, bang and blow takes place inside the cylinders of the engine, with the engine drawing in an air and fuel mixture, the spark plug igniting that fuel and air mixture, the resulting bang pushing the piston down inside the cylinder, and then the piston moving back up to expel the spent gases out of the exhaust. This cycle continues over and over again, and that is what makes the car move. Without this spark plug being in good condition, clean and properly gapped, the engine won't run efficiently. So in this video I'm going to show you how to remove them, how to clean them, and how to set the gap correctly to get the best and most efficient use of your engine. So where do we start with this job? Well, first we need to get the spark plugs out of the engine. So an important word of warning, do not touch any of the spark plugs or the ignition system or the coils whilst the car is running. That will cause a very serious electric shock. What I would suggest before doing any work on the electrics of a car is to disconnect the battery. This car has this little tap, I can undo this and the battery is now disconnected. Other cars you may need to undo the bolt and completely remove the clamp or the terminal from the battery to make sure it's disconnected properly. There are two bolts in this plastic moulding on top of the engine. This car has no hose clamps holding the various parts of the air intake system together, something which I will aim to rectify in the future, but for now it means I don't have to undo multiple clips and clamps to remove these parts. This pipe here is badly split and is a point for a future video, as it's almost impossible to get hold of the replacement for this pipe. I will need to fix it, but for now all these parts are going to get a thorough clean. Don't tell my wife. So here we have access to the top of the engine now we've removed all those plastic parts. This car has 4 cylinders, so 4 HT leads, 1, 2, 3 and 4. HT stands for high tension, and high tension is the electricity that is carried from the coil to the spark plug. These leads are all in good condition, so we don't need to replace them, but like everything on this car they will be getting a good clean. To remove these spark plugs, they simply pull off by using these little hooks, so get your finger underneath and you can pull them out. It is worth noting that other cars, especially more modern versions of this engine, will have coil packs on the top of each spark plug. This car uses 2 coil packs which are here, and they feed the spark plug via the HT leads. Before removing any of the leads, make a note of how they are connected so you can put them back the same way when you put the car back together. What I would suggest is taking a photo of the leads beforehand so you can refer back to it later. This car is fairly simple in the layout of the leads because they can only really go one way, as is. To do this you need a deep socket to remove them. I'd recommend getting a proper spark plug socket or tool that has this little rubber bung inside. This will grip the spark plug once it's loosened and allow you to remove it easily. Without this, it can be difficult to get hold of the end of the spark plug without damaging it or risking dropping something into the engine. And if you look at the length of the HT leads, you can see that the spark plugs are a long way down inside the top of the engine, so you need to reach that far down. As you can see, with this tool, the spark plug comes out very easily. We have a problem. One of the spark plugs is actually broken. Interestingly, it seems like 1, 2, that's 3. It seems the electrode has completely broken off the top of the spark plug. Now thankfully I can see the electrode is in there, so with a pair of pliers I should be able to pull it out. You can see there, that is the electrode that's broken off the top of the spark plug. Now we need to get the spark plug out of the hole. I wanted to make sure I knew where the electrode was before I did this, because the last thing I would want to do is risk anything falling down into the engine. Now this is where problems begin, because this spark plug does not want to come out. To use an Allen key, I'm going to poke that down into the hole in the spark plug and then draw it out. There we go. There we go. That is the broken end of the spark plug. That's the electrode that has broken off in the middle. I don't know how well you'll see that on the camera, but there are some marks on here that make it look like somebody has gripped this with a pair of pliers this way, so looks like maybe they've tried to remove the cap, which these caps don't remove. These are modern spark plugs. Old-fashioned spark plugs used to be able to unscrew the top of this to fit the wire and clamp it down, but they haven't really made spark plugs like that for a long time. So this one's broken. We're going to have to get a new set of spark plugs. So here we've got a set of new spark plugs, and this is one of the new ones and there's the old one just for comparison. As you can see, this is pretty dirty and grotty looking. It's clearly been in the car a while. This one's nice shiny new. What I would like to point out is they come in these little cardboard boxes, and with the spark plug in there like that, it can jiggle about, and if this is to bang down on something, it can bang on that electrode and it can close up the gap so that the gap is not set correctly for the car. They tell you these days that you don't need to set this gap, that it will be set from the factory. However, I would never take that for granted, and I would always make sure you measure and set this gap correctly. So how do I set the gap on the spark plugs? If I show you here, this here is the gap that we want to set, and to set that, I'm already given the game away here, you use a set of these, which are feeler gauges or thickness gauges. This is a tool that consists of lots of pieces of metal. Each one of these pieces of metal is a certain thickness. These ones are a bit grubby because I've had them for a lot of years, but I will pop a link in the description below so you can see where you can get a set of these yourself. Preferably you would use ones that are in better condition than these, so they're very inexpensive. I think you can get them for maybe £5 or £10, and which probably be about €5 or €10 if you're in Europe, and they measure the thickness by inserting them into a gap. We know the thickness of these pieces of metal. We can combine them, so some of them are very thick, like this one here. Some of them are very thin, like this one here. It's almost like a piece of paper. And we can combine them together. So if I put those two together, I know that those two pieces of metal together is 0.9 millimeters. So here's our spark plug, which is a DCP R8E. So what we've got here, DCP R8E, and this is -N, but that's 0.9 millimeters. This is the Mark II manual. That's and the thickness that we need to set the gap on our spark plug, and if I put that in there, I can see just about that that is roughly fitting. It's a little bit loose. So the next thing to do is to just adjust these ever so slightly. You can buy little tools that you hook onto this part of the spark plug and just bend it. But I learned in a very old school way, which is just to give them a gentle tap on something just to close that gap up. So you just tap gently on a surface, not like this, you need something a little bit harder, but tap gently on a surface and that will close up the spark plug gap so that you can get the right thickness. So let's do that now. Let's get all of the spark plugs set to the correct thickness, and then we will put them back in the car. If you are doing this, you don't want to be banging this really hard. You don't want to crack the ceramic. This white piece is all ceramic. You don't want to crack or break that, so you just want to be very gentle, and that is now spot on. So I've just got a gentle bit of resistance as I put the feeler gauge in, but it's still fitting in and it's not loose. So that is ready to go back in the engine. Now we just need to set the other three. Now we're ready to put our newly gapped spark plugs back in the engine, so we will put them into the end of our spark plug socket, and we will push them in like so. Not going to put any sideways pressure on it or anything like that. I'm just going to wind it in by hand. And let the spark plug's thread wind it in. And that's all the way into the bottom. And then we just pull it out and the spark plug is now in. And we're going to do the same for all 4 spark plugs. There is a crush washer on the end of the spark plug that will help create a good seal. So again, we don't need to do these super duper tight. Just wind them in by hand. Like so. And then the final thing to do is we will just put a socket on the ratchet on the end, and I'm just going to pinch them up tightly, not a lot, just about a quarter turn, just so that they are in, but they're not so tight that they're going to weld themselves to the engine. And lastly, we're going to put the spark plug leads back on. So this one is quite short, so I'm going to put the lead in first and then connect it to the coil at the other end, like so. Make sure they're pressed down well, and we can use the picture that we took earlier to refer to so we know which way round to connect our spark plugs. It's really obvious on this engine anyway, because the leads are connected still to the coils, and the length of the leads basically denotes the order of the spark plugs. And the final one in there. And that is our leads all reconnected. And the last thing to do is to connect up all of the pipework and put the engine back together. Before I put all the pipework and plastics back in place, I thought I would just fire it up and give it one test to make sure that everything was working properly, so I didn't have to take it all apart again if there was something wrong. And as you can see, there is absolutely no vibration in the engine at all. It is running exceptionally smoothly. I'm incredibly happy with the results of this little DIY job. And just for comparison, here's what the engine sounded like before I did the spark plugs. It's about this point in editing the video I realised that I had forgotten to show you how to clean the old spark plugs. The old spark plugs, although I did find one of them was broken whilst doing this work, at least 3 of them were still in good condition and could be reused. Unfortunately, one of them was stolen by the company that I bought the new ones from, because I gave him the old spark plug to check against the new ones that I was buying, and he never gave it back, so this is the broken one. So we have 2 spark plugs that we could reuse. Let's clean them. This is an ultrasonic cleaning bath, and while I appreciate that not everybody has got one, if you haven't got one, get one, because they are the best thing in the world. This one cost me around £45 off Amazon. I'll try and link to something similar in the description below, but I don't think you can get this exact model anymore. Very simple. You just put the spark plugs in, leave them for a period of time. You've got a temperature dial here where you can set it up to 90 degrees Celsius. You have got a timer here, and you can set the time that you want the items to be cleaned for. So I'm going to drop them in this ultrasonic cleaning bath once it's up to temperature, and then we will see how well they come out. So now this is up to temperature, we will put our spark plugs in. We've got some detergent in here and deionized water, and we will turn this on, which will make a god awful noise. So I'm now going to walk away and leave it for half an hour and then come back and see what they look like. So here we are. We can see that the nice blue colour of the water has turned a horrible grey. The spark plugs have been in there for a couple of hours now, although the actual ultrasonic bath has only been running for about an hour total. And that is one of the old plugs, believe it or not. That is the other plug. And this is the broken one, and what they looked like before. So they do clean up incredibly well in an ultrasonic cleaner. They also clean right down in inside the electrode there, which you would never be able to do with a wire brush. By all means, you can sit there and scrub these with a wire brush to get them as clean as possible, but you will never get them this clean with a wire brush. So for any DIY person working at home, I thoroughly recommend getting one of these little ultrasonic cleaning baths for cleaning bits and pieces up. Or you can do it like this the hard way. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, then please do hit the subscribe button. More videos will follow soon. If you haven't already done so, also give us a thumbs up. Click on the comments section below. Give us your ideas about what videos you would like us to make, or what you think of this video, what I have done wrong, what I could have done better. And I will see you in the next video. Ciao for now.